What is up, guys? Welcome back to Swish Life Garage. I'm back with it here on my 95 Civic. There's something I need to work on right away here on my injector. This injector number 1, sometimes I'll see it wet. I'll just kind of see it kind of like shining, glistening, and seeing that it is slightly wet. It's not overly wet, it's not puddling up or dripping, anything like that. But then I look on my fuel rail here, and on the fuel rail, I'm not sure if you guys are able to see, but it has like a golden color on there. And on the back side, there's like a golden color. And what that is the fuel leaking out and evaporating on the fuel rail. So it's just leaking enough and just evaporating. It's not dripping on down. But definitely don't want any sort of fuel leaking out of your car. I'm going to get started on working on these injectors. First thing I'm going to do is loosen up this screw right here, and that's going to get all of the pressure from the fuel rail here and release it. So whenever I start working on the fuel rail, the pressure won't be there and I won't have fuel spraying at me. Just gotta loosen it enough till you see fuel come out. Let it come out for a second and then tighten it back up. I want to be able to take off the fuel rail so I could clean it away from the car. So I'm going to get a wrench and take off this nut right here. Make sure to save those washers. There is another washer on the actual fuel rail. For these injector clips, this one just pulls off, and that's because I don't have the little metal clip that goes around it to prevent it from just pulling out. But this other one here has it on. So you could do it with your fingers if you have the fingernails to do it, or just get a flathead. You move that wire and push it back. You'll see this one right here. It just kind of moves back right there, and it will clip in at a certain point, but after that you just pull it on off. If your injector harness hasn't really been messed with, you will have some 10mm nuts right here, one right there, another right over here, and you'll be able to get this wire harness on off. If you look again on the back side, right under here, there's going to be some more 10mm nuts that hold on the fuel rail and hold in the fuel injectors. There should be one right over here, another one in the middle, and another one right here, so for a total of 3. And if you see that injector I just pulled out, the O-rings are all messed up on it. If you guys had seen on the injectors, on the tip of it, you had a lot of that grime and carbon built up on there. One thing I forgot to mention on taking off the fuel rail is that you're going to have the hose for the fuel pressure regulator here. So you will have to take that on off as well to get it fully off. I spent time on the intake and on the back of the head here cleaning up that spray paint and dirt and sand that was just built up all back here. So it's looking a whole lot better. Now I'm able to install the injectors back into here. Also took out the rubber grommet on there. If you see that inner lip, there was a lot of dirt and carbon just built up all on there. So I used a flathead screwdriver and just start to pick it on out and really clean it on up while I have the opportunity to do so. So all that is good to go. I did have trouble whenever I took off this nut off of this stud. It was really stripped. I got my thread chaser and I went over it, so now I shouldn't have any issues on there. I am going to get some additional nuts on here because I was missing some, so I'll be able to have all the bolts and nuts as they were from factory. But as far as the seals on the injectors, here are the old seals. There's that one seal that I was having an issue with, and that's why I was leaking out fuel. So now what I bought here is an injector seal kit, O-ring kit for all 4 injectors. Here is the brand Walker, part number 17092. It has all the seals that I need. It has the pre-filter, it has the grommet for the intake, the O-ring for the actual injector, and as well some of the other spacers. So with the injector, firstly going to put on this bushing, and then I'm going to use the green O-ring. Go ahead and install the pre-filter into there, and this grommet will go into the intake. To install the injectors back onto the car, you firstly want to put the injectors onto the fuel rail first. And the reason why you want to do that is so you don't have the chance of snagging the O-ring and messing up the O-ring, and honestly it's kind of easy to do with these injectors. What I'm going to do is add a tiny bit of grease onto these O-rings just so they have a little bit of slip whenever I put them into the fuel rail, and let the O-ring slide instead of snag it and accidentally damage it. There it is, it's time to put it on the car. I'm gonna just kind of direct them on in. Just trying to, I'm gonna line up with the studs as well. See, everything is pretty much in there. From there you could just give it a little push. Putting the injectors is pretty easy if you do it that way. Tighten up the 3 10mm bolts. Don't tighten one all the way. Try to do them evenly, and it'll push the injectors the rest of the way down instead of you trying to manually push it with your hand. Okay, it's just going to keep popping back up. But after that, of course, hook up the hose for the fuel pressure regulator, and then hook up the hose to the intake here. Hook up the pigtails into the injectors. Now whenever you put them in, you don't have to open up the metal clip, you just push them in and it'll clip right in. And after all that is done, you could go ahead and bolt down the wire harness onto the top of the fuel rail there. The last thing I need to do is hook up the actual fuel hose to the rail. Now whenever you're hooking back up the fuel rail, make sure you have the washer going on first. Then you put your hose right there. Make sure that washer is on the nut. Then get your wrench, crescent wrench in this case, and tighten up the fuel rail. It should only be torqued down to 28 foot-pounds, so that's really not too tight. A nice little pull on the wrench, and it should be good to go. Now that the injector is not leaking any longer, the other thing I want to do onto my fuel system is change out the fuel filter, but I want to do something a little bit extra as well. I'm going to be changing out the fuel filter with the Wix filter, and this one here, the part number 33559. The other thing I want to add onto my fuel system is put a fuel pressure gauge. This one can be installed right on top of the fuel filter, and the reason for a fuel pressure gauge is mainly whenever you have adjustable fuel regulator, you're able to see where your pressure is at all times and if you need to adjust it on the spot. Here on an older car with over 320,000 miles, mainly what I'm going to have it for, if the fuel pump ever goes out, you can see if the fuel pressure starts to go low, and that will give you an indicator. Or in the future, if I ever put an adjustable fuel regulator, I'll be able to go ahead and adjust it on the go. I have installed one of these before on my 95 Prelude, and on that one I did have adjustable fuel regulator, and that was the reason why I put it on there. These aren't really too expensive. This one I picked up on eBay. It was only about 26 bucks. Comes with the banjo bolt that you need and the attachment to put on the gauge on top of the fuel filter. So let me go ahead and get started and take off the old fuel filter. For the fuel filter, same thing. You want to release that pressure with this 12 mil. After pressure is released, you can tighten it back up. Now with the 17, I'm going to take off the banjo bolt. There's the bolt, and make sure you get the washer. Remove the fuel line. Now that is off right here on the fuel line. You're going to need to get a line wrench, and as well you're going to need to get, I believe it's a 19 mil to hold the fuel filter from spinning, and this one is going to be a 14. After that, going to loosen up this 10 mil right on this other side, the 10 mil, and that is the bracket that holds in the fuel filter. I have the new fuel filter right here, and it does have the plastic caps. I'm going to take off the one for the bottom. You firstly want to get started the fuel line before you tighten anything up. So just put it in place. Alright, so I can't turn it no more with my fingers. Now I'm going to set it into place here, and this tab actually has to be bent up. There it goes. I'm going to put the metal bracket. It has a little hole to start it in. Get it around there. Put the 10 mil. Alright, and now I'm going to tighten up the fuel line down here. Here's the banjo bolt that came with the VMS fuel pressure gauge, and it does already have a washer on there. So I'm going to take off this rubber cap. There is already kind of like a built-in washer onto this bracket, just like the original one. It's just like that. I'm going to put that on there. Put on the VMS banjo bolt. This banjo bolt is now a 18. Next, I'm going to put on this attachment. Now I'm going to put on the fuel pressure gauge. This is liquid filled. That protects it from any sort of shock that it would experience through those road bumps and the shaking. Prevent the fuel pressure gauge from going out prematurely from those vibrations. So that's the reason why you have a liquid filled gauge. If you just use a regular gauge, it's just going to break with those vibrations. So let me go ahead and install this. In the back of it, it has a 12 mil nut, so you can use it to tighten it on up. I did already prime up the fuel pump, so you see the pressure has risen. But by priming up the fuel pump, you'll be able to see if there's any leaks, fuel leaks at the banjo fitting or at the fuel line. So I don't see any sort of leaks. I'm gonna go ahead and start it on up. I'm gonna go ahead and check the fuel pressure. And truly check the fuel pressure, you need to take off the hose for the fuel pressure regulator, block it with your finger, and you'll see the pressure change. I'll show you right now. Changed about 10 psi. I'm gonna go ahead and plug it back in. Now it's 235. I'm gonna unplug it and plug it with my finger. There, we're at 45. So if you had an adjustable fuel regulator, you go ahead and plug it with your hand or your finger and adjust your regulator to the pressure that you want it at. The pressure on this motor is fine. 45 psi is what it should be at. Since this motor does have a lot of miles on it, you know, I was really wondering if the fuel pump was good. I have some other little issues that I've experienced on here, and I thought it might have been a fuel system issue, but definitely with the fuel leaking out, you know, that was an issue. You don't ever want fuel leaking out. It should never do that. things can terribly go wrong, you know, with starting a fire and stuff like that. It's kind of weird to me that I had such a small fuel leak. It wasn't dripping anywhere, it's just kind of evaporating, and I was having some sort of like starting issue, which I'm gonna see if that still persists. Maybe you might want to put on your fuel pressure gauge as well, just something to look at underneath the hood. I get that, but it does have an actual function to it. It's not just sort of like a chrome intake and just there to give some oohs and ahs. I took off the attachment for the fuel gauge and the actual fuel gauge because overnight I noticed that it had a slow leak coming out of it, and I thought about putting some white tape. At the time I was thinking white tape, but I know it's not used for fuel. So I have some yellow tape, which is meant for gas, for fuel, and I'm gonna use it on the threads here for the attachment and for the gauge so I could stop that leak. Boom, now with the yellow tape on the threads, we are 100% good. I'm not seeing any sort of leaks as of now. Of course, I'll give it overnight whenever I park the car and check on it again, but I'm pretty sure that was going to be the issue. I should have just listened to myself the first time and just looked it up and got the yellow tape. That is it on the installation of the fuel filter and the fuel pressure gauge, as well as fixing the injectors with the O-rings and preventing that from leaking. Of course, you never want fuel leaking out of your car, especially in the engine bay. Enough could start to leak out and then you start a fire inside of there. Definitely, if you notice any fuel, any smell of fuel, try to figure it on out and make sure you're not leaking anything and get that thing fixed. Hopefully this video helps you guys out if you're having some issues or replacing some seals on your injectors. So let me know if you have any questions down below in the comment section. Of course, give this video a thumbs on up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Down below in the description box there is a link to my eBay and Etsy. If you guys want to show any love, any support to the channel, you can make a purchase there and show the support through there. Go ahead, check out my channel, guys. I have tons of videos already uploaded and more that are to come in the future, working on this car as well as other projects that I have. So check out the videos, drop a comment on them, because as of this video, this is going to be it. I'm gonna have to catch you on the next one, player.